Alright, so let's talk about something that's been buzzing all over the Honkai Star Rail community lately. March 7th's new 5-star form, Evernight. This isn't just a costume swap, this is a complete reimagining of her kit, her role, and her synergy potential. I'm going to break down exactly how she works, what makes her unique, where she might fit into current and future teams, and also share some spicy community reactions so you get the full picture of how players are feeling about her. And yes, we'll address the elephant in the room, whether she's basically just Castoris's new best friend, or if she can stand on her own. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description. Evernight is a Remembrance Path unit, but not in the classic sense of just freezing or delaying enemies. She plays around a unique mechanic, her Memno Sprite companion, Eve, which acts as a semi-autonomous summon. From the start of battle, she calls Eevee to the field. Her kit revolves around building and spending a resource called Memoria. Whenever Eevee takes damage or Evernight uses certain abilities, she gains Memoria stacks. Once she hits a certain threshold, 16 stacks, she can command Eevee to unleash a powerful sacrificial attack. This consumes all of Eevee's HP and the Memoria stacks, and refunds Evernight a chunk of energy, while also granting her an extra turn. That turn is usually where you drop her ultimate to resummon Eevee instantly and keep the cycle going. It's a very loop-oriented gameplay style. Summon, build, explode, resummon, repeat. Her talent with me this night is the backbone. Eevee starts with 1,480 horsepower, scaling off Evernight's max horsepower, and when certain triggers happen, like Evernight using skills or being in the memories stance, Evie jumps in to attack. If Eevee gets knocked out, she revives after 2 turns. Her main skill, Remembrance, drifting like rain, in the memories stance, that follow-up hit is stronger. This skill essentially doubles as a multi-hit trigger for breaking shields faster, which makes her naturally appealing in weakness break-oriented setups. She's also got Soft Blue, drifting in Merc, which hits enemies and strips buffs, an underrated but very valuable utility for content with buff-heavy elites and bosses. Her ultimate Wokeful World, Good Night, is a huge AoE nuke that makes both her and Eevee hit all enemies, while also applying imprisonment, delaying enemy actions and lowering their speed. On top of that, it sets up her empowered state to accelerate Memoria generation, letting her loop back to her next burst faster. Her traces layer even more synergy. For example, Dark the Night, Still the Moon boosts Eevee's damage after an ultimate by 30%, while Kindle the Morn, Drop the Rain increases crit damage for all allies when the team is healthy, and her final major trace gives massive crit damage bonuses to all Memo Sprites based on how many Remembrance units are in the party. 5%, 15%, 40%, or 50% at max when you run a full mono Remembrance comp. Evernight scales almost entirely off max HP. That means you can pump her survivability and damage at the same time, which makes gearing her relatively straightforward. And she's already swimming in crit rate from her traces and potential relic synergies. The new relic set on Hakush even gives 8% crit rate baseline and boosts both her and Eevee's HP by 24%, while increasing team-wide damage after she uses basic ATK or skill. Her signature light cone is clearly her BIS, max HP boost plus giving all allied Memo Sprites DF, ignore, and stacking her and Eevee's damage up to 80% at max stacks. Outside of that, Hyacine's signature light cone is also an incredibly strong option, thanks to HP synergy and HP loss triggers. F2. P options are limited. Some players suggest the Herta Shop LC for extra speed and team buffs if you're running her more as a sub-DPS. Here's where the debate heats up. Evernight works best with other Remembrance characters who either provide HP loss mechanics or benefit from her Memo Sprite buffs. Castorish is the big one, not just because of raw damage synergy, but because Evernight's buffs apply to all Memo Sprites, meaning Castorisi's dragon hits harder, Hyacine's hits harder, and everyone's follow-up damage gets juicier. A dream team in many Theorycraft discussions right now is Evernight, Castorise, Hyacine, and Cyrene, once she releases. Before Cyrene, RMC or Tribby fill the slot, with some arguments about which one she replaces in Castorise teams. Some say Tribby gets booted, freeing her for other comps. Others say RMC is the cut. Could she run outside of Mono Remembrance? Possibly. HP scaling sustain units or supports like Sunday could work, especially if you just want her crowd control and loop damage. But it's clear her biggest numbers come when she's surrounded by her own kind. This isn't the first time Hoyoverse has designed a character to be best in one hyper-specialized lineup. Think of how Kafka was tied to DOT comps, or how Anaxa was framed as Thirda's ideal partner, but still worked solo. Evernight leans more toward the locked synergy side. She can technically function in other settings, but her trace and scaling bonuses are too heavily weighted toward Mono Remembrance to ignore. Now, the player base is divided. If you own Castoris and Hyacine, the consensus is she's a must-pull. Her E1 in particular is being called broken, bonkers, and a massive damage boost for the whole team. People are already theory-crafting absurd crit damage stacks, over 200% in some setups, and salivating at the DEF ignore synergy. On the flip side, a lot of players are frustrated. If you don't have Castorise or Hyacine, she feels like a luxury pick with low flexibility. Many call her a Castorit slave or Mono Remembrance shill, saying they're tired of Hoyoverse locking new 5-stars into one existing premium team. Some are even skipping her entirely for that reason, despite liking her design. There's also disappointment from players who wanted her to be a self-sufficient main DPS like Anaxa. Instead, she's clearly tuned as a sub-DPS who buffs summons. And while some argue she could still be built as a carry with the right supports, that would mean sacrificing a lot of her intended synergy bonuses. The hype is real if you have the pieces, but if you don't, the general advice from the community is to think twice before pulling, unless you're just a die-hard March 7th fan who wants her no matter what. So what do you think about Evernight? Is she the ultimate Castoris partner that pushes Mono Remembrance into the top tier, or is she too specialized for her own good? I think she's going to be absolutely monstrous in her intended comp, but I'm not sold on her solo or flex potential yet. Either way, it's one of the more interesting mechanical reworks we've seen for a standard character, and I'm curious how she'll shake up the meta when she's actually in players' hands. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives into upcoming characters, with honest analysis and a look at real community sentiment, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.